Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast, it's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. Hi, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm talking about something a little different. I want to briefly explore the soul contracts that we have with animals. But today's episode is actually really charged for me because I recently lost my dog, Sedona. And I was hesitating on whether or not to discuss this on the show because it's still really raw. It's only been a week or so. But it also feels weird to come up with some topic to talk about right now. To talk about anything else feels really weird. So let's explore this. Let's explore what it's like to have these soul contracts with animals, what it's like for them to end, what it's like to grieve, but also to appreciate what you might have in your life now and to be able to identify, is this kind of like a soul contracted animal for you in your life? And someone might argue that all animals are soul contracted. However, we're going to get into what makes some of our soulmate animals different. And so, yeah, things have been quiet. It's just been a massive roller coaster ride. And I have been reflecting on how my dog, Sedona, wasn't really just like a companion. She wasn't even a pet. That word, I can't even say, I lost my pet, because that's just so belittling to what she really was. I know that sounds weird maybe to some, but she was a lot to me. And in fact, my dog was factually a very spiritual being. I think more so than even myself. She just had a Zen thing going. The dog definitely had a vibe. But I want to explore this a little bit because it's really rocked my world. And I think that to share that and to talk about it, I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And so the other day, or last week, a week ago, I was in an all-day, all-week-long training, learning a new energy healing modality. It's almost like hard to describe. It was just really intense week of really beautiful work, really big expansions, and felt just so expanded. And I finished that on Thursday and was, flying high and feeling like, wow, I just feel so good. I got cleared so much that week and just really got in touch with some higher level stuff, and it was beautiful. And then Friday came, the next day, and I started the day with a hike with my dog, Sedona. And I went and ran some errands and picked up my son, and I had been out of the house for a while. And when I returned, the end of the day, it was almost 5:00, she didn't look well. And over the next hour or 2 hours, I slowly came to the very real conclusion that she was not well. And I thought she just ate something bad. I honestly thought that she got into some marijuana on our hike. I'm like, I wonder if there's something on the ground. Some kids are getting high out there and she ate it, because she just seemed really stoned, super daisy, loopy, out of it. I didn't know what was going on with her. So packed her up, took her to Tufts, and it was there when they rushed her in because they saw the color of her gums. By the way, if your dog's gums are not well colored, if they're starting to get too light or white, that means they are in serious, there's something very serious happening. So they basically flew her in, saw her immediately, and came back. And I thought they were going to tell me that, she ate something. And they proceeded to tell me that my dog was bleeding internally and I had 2 hours left to spend with her in this life. And that was, that was just so big. That was just really, really hard. And so, the fragility of it all. 1 minute we're just with our dogs and their pets or cats or animals. And then out of nowhere, it can all change. And so that was just really, really treacherous for a minute. It's just been really hard. And so my dog Sedona was a soulmate. Soulmate animals are different in certain ways. And so today I want to explore with you how to recognize your own pet as a soulmate, and not just in the comforting, love-filled way that we usually think of, but in the deeper spiritual sense, the way that they activate our growth. They help us fulfill soul contracts. They guide us into who we really are and become. And I think that not every pet we love is a soulmate, but every pet has a purpose. Every pet comes into our life is unique and special, and that relationship teaches us, it stretches us, for all the different reasons. But the soulmate animal, I think it feels different than the rest. It's almost like there's immediate familiarity. They choose us, or we just can sense the destiny in our meeting. Maybe you weren't planning on getting a pet. Maybe they found you at just the right moment. Maybe they were hard to get and you felt this incredible force to fight for it. Whatever that is, there's this force that comes with it, this feeling. And I remember when I found Sedona, I had really wanted this type of dog because she's a Carolina dog. So they're actually still wild in the Carolinas. And she was with a woman who bred German Shepherds. And this woman was having a really hard time finding her a home because she didn't look like a German Shepherd. I mean, she wasn't a German Shepherd, not really. And she trained shepherds for police officers. So she was out in Georgia, and she just kept blowing me off. Like every time I set up an appointment to get this dog, she would just not show up for that appointment. She wouldn't show up for the phone call. She just wouldn't pick up the phone. And so I had to fight for her. And then in the end, I had to give up. And I went and chose a different dog, and I went and got that dog. And right after I got that dog, I got the call that this woman, apologizing profusely, but she was nervous about giving Sedona away to someone so far away, because I'm in Massachusetts and this was Georgia. And so finally I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have two dogs. But what I tell you, when I showed up and got this dog off this van that just showed up and traveled from Georgia to Massachusetts, when she walked out, she looked at me, beelined over to me, and like Velcro stuck herself up against me, looking the other way, never gave me eye contact in the beginning, but just always had her body like touching me. And I just thought, whoa, hi, like, okay, here you are. And I immediately was just like, we're together. We're supposed to be together. We have had lives together with me and this dog, and we'll have more, I'm sure. And so, I want to highlight for you, if you have an animal that you can sense like, yeah, there's just a special, immediate connection, a familiarity or something. You might notice that like many of us with our dogs, we communicate without words. And our soulmate dogs, they just sort of really, they're constantly, they're reading us. They're connected in that level where it's like, you know what I'm thinking, right? They sense your moods before you even speak them. You feel safe or grounded, understood when you're with them, I suppose. But their presence brings out a version of you sometimes, right? That's more present, more open-hearted. So that's sort of their goal, why they're here. But all our pets do that for sure. But our pets don't just love us, they do teach us, especially our soulmates. I feel like, they hold up a mirror to our energy and our emotions. And Sedona definitely did that for me, and she knew my feelings. If I was sad, she would come and she'd be closer. And if I was upset or frustrated, irritated, irritable, angry, whatever, she would just put her paw up on my leg all the time. I was like, and I'd have to let her know, I'm okay. It's okay. She followed me everywhere. I couldn't leave a room. Honestly, I couldn't go 2 inches. If I moved across the room, she readied herself to get up and go, because she didn't want me to leave a room without her. So, that was for 10 years. And I'm sure if you think about animals that you feel really close with, that you spent a lot of years with, you can sense just how special, and it is with every animal. So don't mean to make it sound like every animal isn't special. I have another dog and I love that dog and it is special and they are teaching me a ton too for all different reasons. But with Sedona, there's a soul contract there. There's a familiarity. There's something really special in the connection between us that makes me call her my soulmate. And so now I do feel like with my other dog, I have a contract as well, right? My other dog came in injured and hurting and in pain chronically. And it's really required me to show up and care for this dog and have patience and understanding when they misbehave in ways that are unacceptable to me, right? She gets a little aggressive. She has resource guarding issues, or he does. So all our animals teach us and stretch us and show us different aspects of ourselves and our boundaries. And, we learn a lot about ourselves through animals. But that particular special mirroring that happens with our soulmate dogs is really special. These soul contracts often are sometimes just teaching us about unconditional love, like really, truly leveling up to giving and receiving that love so freely. Right. And although I did hear somebody on a podcast once say, animals don't hold grudges. They don't get angry at you. I'm like, actually, I don't know if I agree with that. Certainly Sedona would be pretty pissed at me if I'd go away for a long period of time without her and then come back from vacation and she'd be a little standoffish, like, yeah, thanks. She held a little bit of a grudge. I think some animals do, but she definitely, there's no question the loyalty that animal is going to come back and the love is going to flow. And even if you just bend down and lean into it and start, if I gave her a belly rub, the whole thing's over, right? But they mirror our emotions. And I think if we were to tune into that, we could become more aware. So if you think about this, like some of the wounds, this is the transformational soul contract, that emotional wounds that you might even share with your animal companion, which serves as an opportunity for profound healing, for allowing a higher vibration of light to anchor within both of you. If you think of it that way, like animals can come in with the same kind of wounding as us and may even have the same kind of mannerisms of how they manage that wounding. And so just think of your animal and like, what is their personality like? What are their strengths? What are the things they came in here with? What are sort of the insecurities they have? Is there any way that they might be mirroring something to you that's important for you to notice? And I do feel like our animals can be doing that. And when that contract is fulfilled and the lessons are all complete, and sometimes their time at that point just really needs to end with us. And that transition starts happening in their soul's journey. And now I missed that. I didn't realize what was going on with her. She was, I don't know if you had this experience with one of your pets where they are really sick, but they don't let you know, right? And so they said that, she had a spleen burst, but they didn't know if she thinks she might have been filled with cancer. And so they were basically like, you have very little chance of saving this dog and we think she has cancer. And there's really not much you can do. There's only really a couple hours here. And when I had to face that, I was like, what? Like this dog's been sick for this long? Like that means she's been sick for a long time. And, looking back now, I could see all the different changes that were happening. And we were joking about it, right? She started sleeping next to my husband. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this dog doesn't leave my side. She slept next to me every night for 10 years. And all of a sudden she was sleeping next to my husband, like on the floor next to his bed, not even in a dog bed, right? Just on the hardwood floor. And we were like, why is she doing that? That's so weird. And she did start like hanging out with him more. And it was really bizarre. And now I'm looking at that, like maybe that was somehow something she was doing in her preparation. There was something else going on there I didn't understand. I thought some of her recent anxious behavior was to do with the fact that she seemed like she was losing her hearing. But we don't know. And that's the thing with our animals is we just don't know. They can't speak. And I wasn't tuning in, not like I maybe could have. But that is just what it is, right? We do our best. But, I have learned a lot, even when I think about Sedona's last day. We started the day with a hike and treats, and then, later on during the day, I discovered she was dying. I realized how quickly the soul contract can close, and also how graceful it can be if I can understand and stay in the embodiment of like, love is not bound to a physical form. And I need to embrace that right now. And I keep going back to it. I'm like, I'm losing her in the physical form, but our relationship is transcending, it's changing. And now I can tune into her around me. And I think she's still around. She hasn't actually processed yet in terms of kind of crossing over. It's so much. There's so many lessons that these animals bring to our life. And just the really common lessons that you've heard before, but maybe it'd be a good reminder, is just to realize how much they ask us to be present. They remind us to live in the moment. They're like, no past, no future, just this breath, just this walk, just this nap in the sun, right? Just this moment together. I mean, Sedona did have sometimes a little anger towards me when I went away for vacation. So there was a little bit of past, but honestly, they're just teaching us so much about the value of being here together. They also teach us about unconditional love and what it feels like to be loved, right? There's no expectation. There's nothing you have to do in order to be worthy of it. And, that authenticity that dogs bring, right? They don't mask who they are. And it is an invitation for us to do the same. When we have these soulmates in our life, they give us that invitation, like, you can be whatever you are in the moment. I'm going to love you anyway. And that last part of letting go when they pass, they teach us that love isn't about the possession of it all, right? It's about the connection that transcends the body, and that we had this beautiful time and it was a gift, and it's fragile, and there is an end to it. And that is sometimes the importance, I think, in life, is that we know that it will end for all of us. Mortality is really hard for us to wrap our brains around and triggers a lot of us to have anxiety. But the reality is that that's what makes it so sweet. And that's what makes it so valuable, is that nobody gets out of this alive, right? And we are here to have an experience and to really honor our soul's journey here. Like, we are here to have an experience, and what do we want to make of it? And it's easy to have regrets. It's easy to go back and for me to think, I didn't do enough. I could have done this or that. I've been so busy this last year with work and building things. And, she sat by my side in my office every single day working when I was home, right? So while I think I get so upset about I should have done this with her and that with her, the reality was we still were together. And if you need to hear that about your own pet or your own animal, I think that it's important to note that what you have in your head is the perfect day. I mean, might be wonderful to your animal, but the reality is being together matters. And so if you're able to do that and you did that, then that's beautiful. But if you do have an animal that has passed on, they often find little gentle ways of saying, I'm still here. So we're trying to be open to that. Be open to any signals. I get up in the night. This has been happening to me a couple times this week, where I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and literally what I did out of habit when I'm half asleep all the time is, if I woke up, she'd be lying there and I would tap her on her head, because she would hear me wake up. She would kind of raise her head. I think she was like, do I need to move? Or is she going very far? Right? And so I just would tap her on the head and say, I'll be right back. And so a couple times this week, I would get up and I would tap her on the head and just say, I'll be right back, without even realizing it, because I was half asleep. And on 2 occasions, I felt her. I felt her head. I felt the warmth of her, as if her warm body was still here. And that jolted me. And I was like, Sedona, And then I realized, oh my gosh, no, right. That's right. And I brought myself back to reality. But she was there. And I know that she's been around me. I have felt pressure on my leg at one point when I was just sitting there thinking about her. And I knew immediately that she was just letting me know that it's okay, like she always has. And so if you open yourself up to it and just getting quiet, and I think a lot of us struggle with receiving the sort of, not, I don't know if you call it intuitive hit or mediumship, but receiving your animal's presence. Because a lot of times we're so used to talking ourselves out of things like, oh, I don't know if that was that. I don't know what that was. I want you just to practice believing that everything is exactly whatever you think it might be. I want you just to practice, yes, they're here. I believe it. I know it. I feel it. I believe it. And I think the more you are open to saying, I believe it, and the more you're open to saying, this is my animal here, this is my little soulmate coming to visit me, letting me know I'm okay, that it's okay, they're okay. The more you believe it, the more you're open to it, I feel like the more you can have that happen. It can occur again and again because you're more open. When we start saying, I don't know, that was dumb. I don't know why I'm thinking this way. We start belittling it or dismissing it. I think the message is it's not quite safe for us. And so we experience less. So I just want to recommend that you just put out to the universe, like, I'm open to receive this. I'm open to hear this. So I think in the deepest truth about our animals is that they really remind us to love freely, purely, without condition. And I think this is the most heartbreaking part that I have to just release and move into just that state of gratitude that I had this beautiful animal and I have another. And I'm so fortunate to have had that experience of being loved so freely and so purely without condition. And she is not present in my life physically, but I got to have that. I got to grow in that. And she taught me that love doesn't need words or control or effort. It's just presence, easy devotion. It's just simply being with. And so whether your soulmate animal is lying beside you right now or waiting for you on the other side, I want you to trust that your souls have found each other for a really good reason, and you will find each other again. Because love, like that, never leaves. It just changes its energy that transmutes. And I do know that my love for her and her love for me has transmuted and changed and become what it is going to become next. So truly just stepping into that gratitude and really embracing that this experience is fleeting and it's also okay. And that it just transforms into something else when they no longer can be here with us. And I do believe that she was greeted by a whole crew of people that loved her and have passed. My father and my in-laws adored her. I have another uncle who just literally spent his day on the floor with her when he came, who I know was sitting there waiting and excited to see her. I think that they are equally incredibly loved on the other side as well. And so keep that in mind if you have a loved one that's passed. And I just want to end here and thank you for listening. I hope that on some level this inspired the love that you have with the animal that you're going to go and hug right now. Or it gives you some kind of sense of peace that the animal that you have that has moved on is in a really beautiful place. And that energy and that love that you have is just simply transforming, simply changing and transmuting into something even more beautiful. So thank you very much for joining me today in this heavy talk, but also this really important talk, I think, about honoring our animals and the soul contracts we have here to do with them. And remember how you love and show up in this relationship is teaching you a lot about your own boundaries, about your own abilities. Are you avoidant in love with your relationships? How is your attachments? What is your attachment like, right? And then what is it like with your pet? What is it like with your animal? And see in your life how this could be showing you something that's really important for you to learn. Okay? All right. I love you and I am so grateful for you. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll be back next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.